cuffs are off, man.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, friends? Daniel Dopp here from the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast over on ESPN.
It's Fabs here, Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated.
You know who you can trust if you've got some questions about your fantasy squad?
Want to check out a cool show on YouTube that'll help you get ready for the fantasy football season?
Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network. If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league?
Head on over to YouTube. Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network because they're doing everything they can to make you a better fantasy player.
You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
So go and roll your sleeves up. Yeah, go and roll your sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I
What up, world? This is FishnFrank here with Get Right Fantasy Network. Welcome back to another episode. We're doing the Wednesday night buy, sell, trade show here. And as you can see, I have a new person joining me here tonight. We got Dylan in the house. Give a little bit of feedback, Dylan. Let them know what you're about here.
So I'm playing fantasy since I was about 16 years old. Coming up on a little 10-year anniversary. I play Dynasty, I play DFS, I play Redraft. I'm in 6 leagues currently. I'm the commissioner of 4 of them. Glad to fill in any way that I can. Just love helping the boys out. Been a long time viewer. Happy to be here.
Yeah, Anthony's in the show here saying what up. This is his favorite part of the show, the roster management show, and I do have to give it up because dude love to trade everything else. Anthony's still helping us out in the background, so he's saying what up, Dylan. I mentioned to him that you wanted to come on the show. He's a longtime viewer here, wants to contribute, and so if anybody you guys out there want to possibly get on the show, maybe write some articles, things like that, help out with the show. We would appreciate the help. This is a labor of love, although we are monetized now, but we don't make money. This is just hopefully we could break even at best. We're still losing money every week, but that's okay. We're still going to keep rolling and keep running it and keep it coming back. SK is already coming in with the question here, so I'm going to go ahead and start that. And we're going to keep it rolling here for a little bit. We'll get to your Q&A towards the end of the show, or at least when we start talking about some of the buy-sell trades and what we're looking at here. So I just want to give you guys a quick show rundown for what we got going tonight. We'll talk about Thursday night start sit. Got to go through the injury news and updates. We'll go through both myself and Dylan's top 3 trade targets, and we're looking to buy and sell. Buy, sell, hold, quick takes. I'm not sure. Actually, I didn't put that one in there, but that's all right. And then they'll do the live Q&A. But just to kind of give you guys a heads up of what we got going on during the week. Here at Get Right, we do the Monday night overreaction waiver wire show. I'm always here Monday night, just kind of going over what happened over the weekend, kind of trying to digest everything and get those waiver wire ads in as soon as possible for you guys. Tuesdays we got the extra point with Kendall and Phil are both on that show right now, but that's the Phil's extra point. Wednesday tonight we're doing the roster management buy sale trade show. Friday nights I do the sit start and all the Q&A. So, if you want to visit us on Fridays, that's a lot of guys on here just talking fantasy football. And then Sunday is Mike's show doing the active, inactive roster management, last minute, things that you got to come up and see what's going on with the fantasy world right before you get your lineup set and the teams start playing here. So that's our rundown here. So please do like and subscribe. We do have super chats, so if you guys want to want to donate to the show and help us out, and we do get a super chat, we'll definitely bring you up first, discuss your team first. Please do include the league size. If the type is a PPR scoring, half PPR, what you got, and that way we can kind of work out and try to give you the best answer, and help you out in the best way possible here. So right now it's time to roll our sleeves up. We got no one on the bye week here. It's the Thursday night. We got Seattle Seahawks at 2-1 versus Arizona Cardinals at 2-1. Arizona's favored 1.5 points. And we got the defense here for Seattle ranking at 11th. Cardinals defense ranking at 15th. Only a couple little injuries really to mention is Zach Charbonnet is listed questionable for week 4, and Zay Jones is out with a concussion. So we wanted to start off by talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. Should we start? Should we sit? What are you thinking, Dylan?
I personally, Marv is he's a bit of a case this year. He's given a lot of people a lot of sleepless nights. You drafted him in the 4th round in a redraft, maybe sometimes higher, sometimes lower. But it's been very, very boomer bust so far. For a time like this, a Thursday night game at home against a division rival, you're kind of looking at another boomer bust option here. Just for, housekeeping purposes, in the last 6 matchups between the Cardinals and the Seahawks dating back in the last 3 years, the over-under for points scored is 36.8, which, you don't really want your games to end 18-19 because that usually means that there isn't a lot of touchdowns being scored, not a lot of opportunity being put around. It becomes more of a defensive game. This week, the over-under set at 43.5, and it's tied for the 3rd lowest projected point total this week per DraftKings and other sports books. So, while, if you've got Marvin, I would say you kind of have to start him at this point unless you've really got better options. But you might be heading toward another boomer bust game for him this week.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I'm going to go ahead and fire up Sam Darnold, Ken Walker, JSN. You got to fire up Trey Benson and McBride. And we're looking to possibly sit Kyler Murray here. Just production-wise, as Dylan just mentioned, not a high-scoring game. It's historically and really, what are you going to get? It's not going to be a lot of points to be had. So maybe, just kind of let him sit and, as he mentioned, boomer bust with Marvin Harrison Jr. on those guys. So that's Thursday night's start. Not really too much to be had on that game. I'm definitely going to be watching, but I think it's going to be lopsided here. I think Seahawks are probably going to take it, but let's see what happens, right?
Really, really quickly, Frank, the with sitting Kyler, a lot of people look at Kyler and they look at the rushing upside, especially in a game where it might not feature, obviously isn't going to feature James Conner, but might not feature a whole lot of consistent work for Trey Benson in terms of a bell cow. Even if Kyler's last 6 games he played against the Seahawks, he averages 16.3 fantasy points a game, and that includes his rushing stats as well. In his last 6 games, he has 0 rushing touchdowns against the Seahawks. And one of those games was a 100-yard rushing performance. So, kind of take it with a grain of salt. I would say he averages around 42 rushing yards a game versus them. But even then, too, it's been tough for them to get the ball rolling. And in a historically tougher matchup, that NFC West, I know Rasta knows that NFC West can get nasty with these divisional games. So if you have a better option than Kyler, maybe sit him for a guy like Jordan Love. You could sit him for a Bo Nix. Dare I say Daniel Jones? This it feels like I'm in the Twilight Zone saying that, but yeah, Cardinals offense this week, even a guy like Trey Benson, who is supposed to get a lion's share of the rushing workload, tough game. You're just kind of hoping maybe he falls into the end zone, gets a couple catches, but I wouldn't expect anything big from him.
Yeah, you're hoping for the best, and you want to see a good performance out of him because obviously he's the next man up, getting the shot at the reins here. But yeah, it's a tough matchup. So hopefully he gets some good numbers, like you're saying, falls into the end zone. That'll be the upside to him for this weekend.
Yep.
Any other takes on that? Just before
I would say on the Seahawks side, I think maybe one of the craziest things I've seen this entire season is how JSN has been used in that offense. If I have it right here, JSN against zone coverage this year has a staggering 45.8% target rate, compared to the next highest player on the team being Cooper Kupp with 14.3. We're seeing legitimately unprecedented numbers of a target share for this guy. The Cardinals run zone at a 74.7% rate, which is good for 10th in the NFL. So a guy like JSN, a guy like Cooper Kupp, you're firing both of them up this week. And you're looking at JSN as potentially a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now. And I don't even think that's really a stretch in terms of fantasy value. I think you're going to get another performance where JSN's getting targeted 11, 12 times, might go over 100 yards again, especially with Will Johnson being doubtful for this one. Their second round pick out of Michigan. You could see a lot of JSN early and often. And if you got Cooper Kupp, I would say that he's probably a good upside flex play this week as well.
So that answers Blake Jacobs' question here. He's talking in flex, half PPR, Cooper Kupp or Trey Benson.
Yep, I'm definitely firing up Cooper Kupp. The Seahawks are 6-0 in their last 6 matchups. Some of these games get kind of nasty. And, in those cases, catches and yards are going to be tougher to come by. So Cooper Kupp, the guy who gets all that underneath work, all the open space, that's going to be a guy that you should more so be prioritizing over a guy like Trey Benson, who, might have 2 or 1.5 yards before contact. This Cardinals offensive line isn't the best. And that Seahawks D line, especially in a divisional game, is going to be a lot tougher to run against than, your run of the mill 1 p.m. game on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, SK, I don't mean to make you wait. And I see your comment here, Woody. We'll get back to you guys. Blake just happened to put the right question at the right time because we were just discussing these guys. So I had to throw them up there for right now. I'm going to kind of move over here to news and basically injury updates right now, which we have a ton. Kind of run through here. I'll let you get the wide receivers. I get the running backs here. So we got James Conner, and Najee Harris are likely out for the season. We already know that. And Trey Benson, we were just talking about, and Omarion Hampton are, expect to see a lot more workload here. So take a look at those guys. We got Tyrone Tracy going to miss about 2 to 4 weeks with his shoulder. So we got rookie Cam Scatterboo, and it definitely fire him up. I seen him get some really nice touches in the game. He looked, although really small. I mean, that dude's small compared to the guys out there. But he was running really good. He runs hard. He reminds me of the Dallas guy that I even have somewhere on a freaking bench. He never gets enough looks, but he's really, really small.
Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn. He reminds you of some guy like that, where he's just like playing football with giants, basically.
Literally.
It says, I have a note. It says worth having off waivers, but Cam Scatterboo's widely owned. He's not a waiver wire guy. He would have been on a waiver wire show. We got Aaron Jones. He's on IR here with at least 4 games, and Jordan Mason is the primary beneficiary in the backfield. I've already fired up Jordan Mason, so he's in there with Shipley. Return to practice is likely to play this coming weekend. We have Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett, also known as Bill. He didn't practice Wednesday due to a knee injury, making Chris Rodriguez or Jerry McNichols possible beneficiaries. So you got to keep an eye on that. But I know a lot of people have been picking up Chris Rodriguez. A lot of people went for Jerry McNichols, figuring he had that long touchdown. So pick your poison on that one. I'm not sure who's going to get it. I might be a 3-headed monster over there for all we know. I don't think anybody's taken it away yet. So it's, wouldn't be a bad idea to, if you can't hold and pick up and stash, I would. I mean, just to see who, wait to let it see how it plays out, because right now I think we're getting that whole push the Bill news, but I mean, we're
Yep.
seeing Chris and Jerry McNichols just get just as many touches, right? I mean, it's almost a three-way split almost. No, Jerry McNichols is getting the least, but I mean, Chris Rodriguez is right there.
Yep.
DeAndre Swift here with the Bears is limited practice due to hip injury, so we got to keep an eye on him. And then we got Josh Jacobs managing an ankle injury issue, but is expected to play week 4. So fire him up with the Packers. Just keep an eye on it. Double check here on Sunday morning or Friday just to make sure that whether or not he's off the injury. So go ahead and take it away with the wide receivers.
Alrighty, so we got CeeDee Lamb with the high ankle sprain, expected to miss multiple weeks. Is going through a tough situation. He could definitely be an IR candidate. It wouldn't surprise me. I haven't heard much currently about if that plan is too concrete or not yet. So definitely, guys like Jalen Tolbert, guys like Kevontae Turpin, they're going to see increased workloads. But I don't necessarily think that if unless you you have scoring settings where if Kevontae Turpin takes back a kickoff touchdown or a punt return, that a guy like Jalen Tolbert is going to necessarily receive a whole lot more value. We've seen this kind of in years past where CD will miss a game or two, or, Dak will be out for the season. And a guy like Jalen Tolbert, he's in the same sort of vein as like a Sterling Shepard of the Buccaneers, where, Mike Evans is out, who we'll get to very soon. But just not a guy that, this isn't like a running back scenario, like a Trey Benson, where it's the next man up. That offense is going to look a lot different. We've also got Mike Evans dealing with a hamstring injury, also expected to miss multiple weeks. Expecting Meka Egbuka to essentially run that Chris Godwin role. Still, Cade Otton has been a little bit of a disappointment this year, but he should also see an increase in targets. Maybe we'll get a little bit of Bucky Irving in the slot, or have Rachaad White feature in a little more. As for a guy like Sterling Shepard, I'm not necessarily looking to run to my waiver wire to pick him up. After that, we've got Terry McLaurin has a quad strain and is consulting with a specialist. It's putting his week 4 availability in doubt. A guy like Debo definitely will fill into a larger role. Zach Ertz could see increased targets. As you were saying, Jeremy McNichols could definitely play out there converted from wide receiver. Bill, Chris Rodriguez, still guys that I'm not really looking to put all my chips in on yet. It feels like they really just want to ride the hot hand. Who else? Alec Pierce is in concussion protocol, unlikely to play. Alec Pierce hasn't done a whole lot this season so far. So he's, not someone that I would expect anyone has. Jawan Jennings missed week 3, had a DNP on Wednesday due to ankle and shoulder injuries. I would stay away from that offense just in general. Unless you've got a Christian McCaffrey, unless, Ricky Pearsall is also kind of his status is uncertain for their game. That entire offense is injured. Unless you've got Christian McCaffrey, there's really no reason. Mac Jones suffered. Up, right? Exactly. Mac Jones just re-injured his PCL. So who even knows? Like, I might be playing quarterback for them next week.
Right.
And then you've got Xavier Worthy, practiced in full and is on track to play in week 4 against the Ravens. I will say, coming back from dislocated shoulders, those are injuries that typically you want to sit out as long as you can. The Chiefs are kind of in dire straits, almost dropping one to the Giants. Looked ugly for 3 quarters. They dropped 2 of their first 2 games at the beginning of the season. So they're kind of bringing him back quickly, which there's a very high chance that he re-aggravates that shoulder. Maybe a guy that you would look to trade now that his name value is back out there, but definitely should give the Chiefs a good bump in production, and is definitely a guy that if you're looking to start him as a flex or something, I would be totally okay with that. Malik Neighbors held out of practice Wednesday, but expected to play through the shoulder. We got the word after the Monday Night Football game that it wasn't too aggressive of an injury. definitely something that is worth noting and worth keeping an eye on, but not something that should be expected to sideline him long term. De'Ami Brown didn't practice Wednesday due to a shoulder injury, a guy that, most people don't even have rostered. This Jaguars offense is currently one of the worst offenses I've seen this year. Yeah. Chris Godwin on track to make his season debut after practicing in full. Wouldn't surprise me if he's on a pitch count, coming back from, the slew of injuries that he got on that one play. The broken ankle, the knee issue that came along with it. Those are things that you're going to have to ramp yourself up. If you've got Chris Godwin, I know that, you drafted him, you put him in on IR, you're excited to finally get him back into your lineup, but I wouldn't immediately start him yet. Allow himself to get ramped up. And don't sweat it. If Chris Godwin goes off for 25 points this week, that's nothing that anyone could have really guessed. These injuries, they're tough to come back from. And then Teteroa McMillan didn't practice Wednesday due to a calf injury. His status is certainly in doubt for his game. Jalen Coker's still out. Xavier Legette, healthy scratch. Still dealing with a little bit of a hamstring, but also not playing that great. It's just an offense you kind of want to stay away from unless you have Tet and he is healthy and playing. But that wraps up the wide receivers.
Yeah. Just want to give a shout out here. Blake Jacobs, I like the stats along with the explanation. We'll be subscribing. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you,
brother.
Let's do it. Let's get some more of that going on. Please like and subscribe as always. Now into the quarterback injuries here. We got Jaden Daniels considered day-to-day with the knee injury, but he should be good to go. It was limited practice. Marcus Mariota will start if Daniels is out. So let's just keep an eye on that. Brock Purdy, I think you mentioned him a little bit ago, but he is expected to return week 4. So, with Mac Jones re-aggravating that PCL injury, it was going to get ugly over there for the 49ers had Brock Purdy not returned. Because I forgot who I mentioned on Monday's game, who's their third quarterback on their roster, and it wasn't going to be pretty.
Yeah, it might be like CMC or something.
I don't see how they've got their 3-0. I don't see. That's just amazing to me.
It's insanity. It's just like this 49ers team, man. We've seen this 49ers team lose Ayuk for 1 week, and they tailspin out of control, and now their whole team is hurt, and for some reason they're just winning every game. So
still holding it strong.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't see how it's going on. Literally everybody's hurt except for CMC, which is kind of strange to say.
The craziest thing.
He's the only guy that's still healthy for them.
I don't know if you would have told me before the season started that Christian McCaffrey is the only healthy 49er and not the only injured 49er, I would have said you're crazy. There's no chance.
So I'm gonna stop for 1 second because I wanted to pull up this guy's stats right here. So we have JJ McCarthy is expected to miss 2 to 4 more weeks with the high ankle sprain. Carson Wentz will continue to start here. And he did chuck it up. He went 14-20 for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns in his debut there. Not much in rushing, not worth mentioning. But, if you're hurting in quarterback, which, the week before here, I had a slew of quarterbacks and injuries that we were just kind of discussing. That's somebody you might want to, if you don't have it already, pick them up for the waiver wire. It might be somebody you can just throw in, at least literally be playing quarterback by committee or sliding in this guy for depending on the matchups that they're playing, and see how they're going. On his is at Pittsburgh, so it's not a great matchup. Pittsburgh defense is pretty tough, so be careful with that, but sometimes you have no other choice, but you got to put a warm body in that slot to keep the fantasy points going. We got Baker Mayfield was limited with the bicep injury, but he's going to play. Shouldn't worry about him. And Justin Fields is still in concussion protocol over there for the Jets. So, keep an eye on him. But again, a lot of quarterback injuries early. Hopefully they get that all out of the way. I'll let you take away from some of these tight ends. Just go ahead and skip the ones that are not relevant.
Awesome. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention too about, Carson Wentz and the Vikings this week is Jordan Addison is now back from his suspension.
Oh, yes.
So, that the help is on the way. We saw, an increased uptick with TJ Hawkinson as well. I funny enough, I think every manager of every Viking, I traded away all my Vikings. I don't have a single one in any of my leagues right now outside of Dynasty. TJ Hawkinson, I couldn't do the no catches going into the final 5 minutes of the game thing anymore. But he had a great bounce back last week. That offense should look a lot more like an actual NFL offense with Carson Wentz under center. And it might be a good thing, that JJ's there to watch and to learn behind Carson. But yeah, getting into these tight ends, Michael Mayer still in concussion protocol and is likely to miss week 4. Raiders are having some tough injury issues right now when it comes to, Brock Bowers is still, kind of laboring that injury he's been dealing with. George Kittle was placed on IR with a hamstring. He's going to miss at least 4 games. Colston Loveland didn't practice Wednesday due to a hip injury. It's not considered serious, but it is worth noting just because, the targets in the Bears offense right now are tough to come by, especially for the tight ends. I'm sure that all the Loveland owners were not happy with Cole Kmet being the recipient of that touchdown last week.
Right? I hate that.
Jatavion Sanders suffered a high ankle sprain and is expected to miss multiple weeks. Probably not a guy you were looking to start in that Panthers offense. Isaiah Likely still dealing with the foot. David Njoku has a knee issue, but is expected to play in week 4. Definitely a trade candidate if you're able to. Harold Fannon's coming out. He's getting a lot of that work that Njoku should be getting and is paid to be producing. But
he came out of nowhere and he killed David Njoku. I was high on David Njoku this offseason. And Harold Fanning Jr. just coming in and just poo-pooing the whole thing. But it is what it is, man. You got to roll with the punches.
Yep. It's funny, too, because me and my friends, we follow a lot of draft stuff around the draft time. And we were calling Harold Fannin Mini Njoku. And so all of us were upset when he was drafted to the team with David Njoku. So, it's... Now you're kind of splitting those targets for Njoku in half. If you can go out and move him, that's probably a good idea. Evan Ingram missed week 3 due to a back injury. Evan Ingram just doesn't have the best outlook right now. He's not really that guy that Sean Payton is using, or at least that he uses normally in his offenses at tight end. He's kind of just more of a if you need a tight end to stream for a week type of guy. Darren Waller expected to make his season debut in week 4. We got Will Dissly with the Chargers, who missed week 3 due to a knee injury. Probably not going to be super productive fantasy wise, especially with Oronde Gadsden getting a couple of more snaps in the last game. Uber athletic rookie, very exciting to watch. Could definitely start to kind of chip away at some of those Will Dissly targets with him not being as much of an athlete as Oronde Gadsden. But that sums up all of the tight ends for this week.
That's a lot of injuries, bro. That's just too much.
It's crazy.
Literally, we just take
it's so
half hour
funny,
reading all these things. It's crazy.
It's like all these injuries we got going on right now. It's so funny because guys that started the season on the waiver wire, a Jawan Johnson, a Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson's the number 1 tight end in a PPR format. Jawan Johnson, I think, is top 5. So it's crazy to see all of, after the season when we go back and look at the draft boards and you see all the tight ends going and none of these guys are actually, putting out what you drafted them for. It's just one of those seasons.
I slowed down on drafting, especially this year. I was especially during a mock draft, I was just dinging guys taking tight ends too high. I said, it's just going to be a muddled middle, and it is. Again, you could just wait, get a guy, even pick a guy off the waiver wire. Other than maybe Tucker Kraft and Warren, that's it. Everybody else is still just not performing to where their draft value, where you drafted them at, and buyer beware. Be careful. Be careful out there. Anyways, time to pay some bills real quick, though. I want to kind of give a quick read here for our guys at Underdog Fantasy. They do sponsor the show here, so go check out. That's the best and easiest place to play fantasy ports. We enjoy their best ball draft tournaments and the live stream them all off season, right? So all the best ball leagues are where you just draft your team and that's it. There's no season long term commitment, no waiver wires, no trades, no weekly lineup setting. You just draft hundreds of teams if you like, and it doesn't replace your redraft or dynasty teams that you manage. If anything, can help you prepare you to understand what the player values are and average draft positions are for your regular home league drafts. I do a ton of those. And now we're in season, so we enjoy doing the pickup contest where you simply pick higher or lower on player stats like total yards or touchdowns. The current promo right now is play 5, get 50. So go to underdogfantasy.com, sign up, use our promo code GetRight. And take a look at them. They're the guys that are out there for us right now supporting the channel. So if you could support them, we greatly appreciate it. Again, new customers are getting play 5, get 50 bonus right now. So with that said, we're going to get into here our buy lows, sell high, our target guys. But I want to, kind of go back. I know that you guys have been waiting patiently here in the chats to kind of go over these things. I want to say what's up to Jesse Hernandez. Welcome back, bro. I remember you from last year as well. We got some other chats in here that I'm going to mention here, kind of star. But let's get back to the top because I think we had SK here said, should I start Keenan Allen over Jamar Chase half PPR? So I went ahead and pulled up the stats for these guys. So Keenan Allen has had 1 touchdown in each of his games, 7 of 10 for 68, 5 of 7 for 61, 7 of 11 for 65, getting let me get to PPR so at least get some PPR points here. Actually, I'll give you half PPR, so in the middle. 16.3 points, 14.6 points, and 16 points from Keenan Allen there after he joined the Los Angeles Chargers. And from Jamar Chase, I mean, it's been dismal. He had 1 good, decent game. I'll go over half PPR points. First game, he went 2 of 5 for 26 for 3.45 points. The week 2 against Jacksonville, he had 14 to 16, 165 yards and a touchdown. That was his good game, 29.5 points. And then, the injury happened here, and now he's down to 5 of 6 for 50 yards and no touchdowns. He even had a fumble lost for 6.4 points. And his next matchup is against Denver. Keenan Allen's next matchup is against the New York Giants. I hate to say it, but I'd fire up Keenan Allen as a flex player or something like that. I still wouldn't sell Jamar Chase. I'd actually buy Jamar Chase at this point. And I have him as a buy target, but it's pretty tough to fire him up, especially this coming weekend against Denver, who last year had a very tough defense, but they haven't showed that yet this year. But still, what do you think? Would you start? Would you sit? Which one are you going with?
And it's such a tough question, because Jamar Chase in his history with Jake Browning averages 65 yards a game, still averages 6 catches a game. Gets about half a touchdown a game in terms of just his raw, statistics with Jake Browning. And it's so tough because I was mentioning it to you earlier before the show, not starting a guy like Jamar Chase, trading a guy like Jamar Chase, you're sort of admitting defeat to yourself. And I think, maybe personally, I think if it was, 5 minutes before game time and I needed to throw someone in, I'm probably throwing Chase in still just because, this guy, he's a different breed,
so much upside, right?
There's so much upside. Pat Surtain's been dealing with a couple of little nagging injuries here and there. The Broncos defense hasn't looked as aggressive as they should. They're not kind of flying around like they were. And Keenan Allen, kind of regression to the mean when it comes to touchdowns. I know that he's the Herbert, safety blanket guy. I just think, if you're looking for a flex play, then I would probably go Jamar Chase. I'd shoot for that upside. But if you've got, say like a George Pickens and a Tedero McMillan as your first 2 receivers right now, then I'd probably start Keenan Allen. I would say if you've got like a George Pickens and Marvin Harrison, you definitely want to lean that safer guy. Whereas, if Jamar, say your team is kind of banged up, or if you really just need that explosive week, then I would fire up Jamar Chase. I would essentially leave it up to you to what you think your team consistency is looking like, and whether or not you think you need to either shoot for that upside or you're fine with, you know, a safe floor play.
And another thing that you got to consider is what is his standings, right? Is he 1-2 or 3-0?
Yep.
Can you take that hit, right? So if you're 1-2, you might want to take the safer play in Keenan Allen. I'm not saying he's going to get a touchdown. He can't continue the streak of a touchdown every game. However, it's almost like a safer floor. Whereas Jamar Chase is the more of a boomer bust type, you know, candidate here at this point. He could give you, you know, an incredible game, maybe even get a 2-touchdown game for you, or he could just have a 65 catch, you know, 65-yard game and just be average, or, you know, not necessarily a dud, just a dud for his fantasy draft value. At this point, I'm actually, you know, trying to sell and buying it. You know, it's kind of, I'm on the fence on both here. Yep. So we got Woody coming up here. Woody the banger Badger here is I have Dak, Kamara, Harvey, Marvin, Harrison, London, Higgins, Bowers in a 14-man full PPR. I'm 1-2 and down bad. Should I look to sell or what?
Man, I don't even hate that team. Like, you know, I think, like, you know, you could definitely improve your running back room. That's probably where I would start with it. You know, this is just me. This is just how I play fantasy. It's how I've always played fantasy. Unless my tight end is doing exactly what I drafted them to do, I am fine with moving Bowers for Jake Ferguson and, you know, a running back like a J.K. Dobbins. You know, I'm fine with taking that kind of step down in terms of a perceived value, while also obtaining, you know, some more value in terms of your running back room. You know, the running backs, they're tough to find right now. Everyone's clinging on to all of them. You know, if you're lucky enough to find one somewhere, great. I think maybe too selling Marvin along with Bowers, maybe get yourself, you know, a CD would be tough because he's injured, and if you're 1-2, then that's also going to be a challenge. But, you know, if you're able to get a guy who's explosive, is consistent, I think that's the only thing you're lacking right now is you know, a consistent, good RB2, and a wide receiver one that is able to just, you know, you can set him and forget him each week. You know, maybe look for like a Roma Dunze if you could. I don't know who your backup tight end is, or if you have one. But, you know, if you made a deal of Bowers for Roma Dunze, and maybe if you could get like a Juwan Johnson or something like that, I would definitely do it. Bowers right now, he's not scoring you more points than Jake Ferguson is, and that's just, you know, that's the name of the game at the moment. But a lot of people, they've got name value.
Yeah, I'd be moving on Higgins. Personally, I mean, we were just talking about Jamar Chase. Higgins is definitely going to be hurting the rest of the way, and that's who I'd be moving on. Harvey, having him as a starter is like, he's more of a Dynasty league guy to me, especially a 14-man PPR. You don't know, he's going to be a later half of the season to have him get more fired up, get more touches, more looks. So you're definitely going to have to be looking for Harvey. I wonder who's on your bench, or, you know, obviously the waiver wire is pretty slim with the 14-man setup. So you're definitely going to have to sell. You're definitely going to have to package some guys up, you know, and, you know, hopefully somebody's buying. That's the other thing. It's like you're selling low. You're not at the high sell point. I would still keep Brock Bowers. I think he's better days ahead. You know, even with Geno Smith throwing, you know, having good game, bad game, good game, bad game type situation. That's what you're going to be having. That's what you're going to have to deal with them with this year. But, and hopefully Ashanti Genti gets his, you know, act together, gets into NFL like gameplay, like, and it could be the offense just not letting him get tackled 4 feet behind the line. You know, like, literally, come on, give the guy a chance here. It is tough to go. You know what I mean? But you do have some pieces here that you could work with. You know, even Marvin Harrison's underperforming, London's underperforming. You just had like some of these guys that are good
Just
guys, but just
tough moves.
underperformance. So you're going to have to make some moves. I would start with Higgins. I don't think there's any saving him, and maybe move Harvey to somebody who's willing to take him and 2-for-1 of just to
Gotcha.
get one better player, just to get one better player on your team that hopefully get some more upside on that and get you going.
And even also having a guy like RJ Harvey, I'm sure there's a 3-0 team out there right now that would not mind stashing him for the rest of the season. Maybe the JK owner, if he's 3-0, maybe he wants, a little bit more of the full backfield. And I noticed a lot of times too, in leagues where you might be 1-2 and another guy might be 1-2 or 0-3. Some of those guys panic, and you can do these mega trades with bad players, and you could send a Marvin Harrison, a T. Higgins, and an RJ Harvey to another team who's panicking, who's not really a big fan of what they've got going on. And at least that increases your value just a little bit. It's when your team is kind of down bad, a lot of it is just you got to play the waiting game, as scary as it is. But then on the other hand too, if you're 1-2, any sort of increase in production per week is a major jump.
Also, you have nothing else to lose.
Exactly. Like there's no issue in making what's considered to be a lateral trade in a situation in which you're already in kind of dire straits, especially in a 14 team. I would say you're not cooked. I think that because of the league size, I think you've got a little bit better of a chance to turn the ship around and compete, knowing how large the playoffs are in that type of league. And there's probably a bunch of other people in that league too that are in the exact same position. I would say there are better days ahead for a lot of those guys. London, Harrison, I think, Bowers, Kamara. I think that is a good squad, especially in a 14 team. If you can just solidify that RB2 spot, I think you're in a really good place.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what you said. Go look at the other teams that are in the same position you are, and I'm sure they're probably struggling or willing to make some moves. So sometimes teams just don't gel. Like you'll have one week where these guys going off, the other guys are down, and the other guys are up, and your other guys that did well last week are down. And sometimes you just got to change it up. I've seen Anthony literally dropped almost everybody on this team, trade everybody away, come back with some other guys, and still made the playoffs. And it's doable.
Yep.
You just got to be committed to your team and committed to making these trade offers and just throwing them out there. Just keep throwing them out there till somebody bites and somebody's going to be like, you know what? I need to make some moves too. Let's see what we could make. See if we can't better each other's teams and, make it happen that way. That's going to be your best option here. Here's Bryce Chalmers here. Chalmers? Would you trade Jamar Chase to get something while his name still has value, or just keep on playing him? I mean, we've been talking a lot about Jamar Chase. He's a high topic right now.
And especially earlier, before the show, we had talked about Jamar Chase a little bit, where it was, he's in this limbo state where you can't sell him because the first thing that your trade partner is going to say to you is, okay, well, who's this quarterback? But then you also can't really buy him because at the same time, he's Jamar Chase. So like a lot of people still view him very highly. I couldn't in most of my leagues get Jamar Chase off of anyone because his name is still Jamar Chase. It really boils down to what kind of package you could get for him. If you could get Roma Dunze, I'd probably do that trade. If you could get any one of those, running backs that like an Amari and Hampton, I'd probably do that trade. Look for a guy that might be scoring a little less than Chase per week, but has the opportunity to blow up into a top 5 player. Allow the other people in your league to have the guys that trend down and allow yourself the guys that trend up, even if that means that, they're not a 1-to-1, Omari and Hampton isn't Jamar Chase. But for fantasy purposes, if he's scoring more points, that's who I want on my team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you drafted him as your 101 for whatever position you were in. And depends if you went wide receiver, right? If you went wide receiver heavy, you probably have a good enough core that you can withstand the storm, basically. And hopefully he could get, him and I always forget the name of his quarterback. What's his backup quarterback over there? Rattler or what was it? Browning, yeah, Jake Browning. Hopefully they could get some more, reps in practice and get more in sync and things that look better for him. If you could hold out, then I would do that. If not, if you're in a position where I don't have a good wide receiver room and I'm 1 and 2 in the league right now and you're panicking, then you should sell while you can, because his name still does hold value. I don't know what the future holds. He could get better, there could be better days ahead, or it could just be the same as what you're getting now. And if you don't sell now, you're definitely not going to get nothing later on.
Yep.
So I think it has a lot to do with, depends on, your roster, yourself, what you have left, and where you're at in the league itself, right? Maybe you could hold out a little longer. I already said what's up to Nino there. We said what's up to Jesse here. Let's see. We got the Blue Crew. Should I trade?
Crazy question, man. This is a crazy question.
Go ahead and read it off. Let's see.
Hey, man. He says, should I trade a Dunze for Scattaboo in a full PPR league? I don't even need to see who your team is. Absolutely not. Like, Roma Dunze right now is a top 5 wide receiver. He is the pure, clean alpha wide receiver 1 in his offense. Scattaboo, yes, we just saw, a good performance from him. But week 1, we saw Tyrone Tracy get the lion's share of the snaps. There are going to be games where the New York Giants don't make it into the red zone. There are going to be games where, Cam Scattaboo is going to get half a yard before he's contacted on most of his runs. That offensive line, it'd be different if Andrew Thomas was 100% healthy and if other guys in that offense were a little better. But I think a Dunze is worth right now something close to a Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think Cam Scattaboo, I probably wouldn't trade a Dunze unless it was for a guy like, let's think, like you could probably do a Dunze and someone else for Derrick Henry if they have a really strong running back room. You could do a Dunze for Kyron Williams and then a piece.
You could get a lot more, basically, is what he's saying.
You can get so much more for Roma Dunze. I actually just made a trade in my home league, my most important league, 2 days ago, and it was Roma Dunze. I was trading away Roma Dunze and J.K. Dobbins, and I got Jahmyr Gibbs. So if you're able to pair Roma, he is a beautiful, beautiful trade chip right now. And I don't expect this Bears offense to be amazing throughout the whole season. And so while this guy is a top 5 wide receiver, I would definitely look to cash in.
He's selling high, and you could get more than just Cam Scattaboo. I mean, I like Cam Scattaboo, but we were just talking about his size, and I was like, this dude's one good hit away from just being out of the league. Like, and I don't know. He's so small, but I mean,
and he takes some violent shots too. He runs really, really hard, and those are the running backs. Like, he reminds me of like a Peyton Hillis who can catch the ball. Like, he's now do I think he's going to get injured his rookie season? Probably not. And I sure do hope not. But I do think that Roma Dunze right now is a guy that is considered in the top 10 wide receivers in fantasy. And I think you can get a ton more for him.
Yeah, Pollard just finally had his day. Henderson had somewhat of a decent day. He's still a 3-headed monster over there in the Patriots situation, and I think they'll continue to do that all year long. I don't think they're going to move away from Ramondre Stevenson, and I forget the other guy that's over there right now. But it's still going to be sharing carries. So unfortunately, Henderson's not going to be the lead back, or even if he is the lead back, he's still going to be sharing touches over there. So I would just shoot for a higher guy, a better guy than Cam Scattaboo. You could get a better, like I said, Kyron Williams,
especially with that wide receiver room. That wide receiver room is like insane.
Yeah, you could move on that guy and not even.
You could move, you move off a Dunze and you still have 2 top 10 receivers. You have a top 5 and a top 10 receiver in JSN and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, you are golden. I would look to see, between Amon-Ra and Roma Dunze, what is the maximum value you could get. It would not shock me if you could land a Derrick Henry, if you could land someone who might be disgruntled with Saquon not getting the touches at the 1-yard line. I'm sure not happy. But yeah, man, that's a stacked wide receiver core. You'll definitely get yourself in a much more advantageous position if you can get a better running back for a Dunze.
Yeah, I'd be shooting for like a Bucky Irving,
Yeah,
or even
Bucky,
the Dick
that's a
Fair.
shout.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's
Josh
I think that you
Jacobs.
could get I think you could get those guys.
Yep.
Let's check it out here. We got Jesse coming in with the trade question, trying to acquire CD Lamb for a wide receiver hungry team. 2-1. I have Nico, Pearsall, Olave, Rashi Rice, and Ayomaner. My running backs are Gibbs, Irving, Hampton, and Harvey. Any options? Thanks, fam. So also it's a full PPR 10-man. That's what I was wondering. I was like, how'd you get such a decent team? I was like, you think it's until you get to that part, right? And you're like, oh, it's 10-man. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So he's looking to trade question, try to acquire CD Lamb now for wide receiver from a wide receiver hungry team. 2-1. I have Nico, Pearsall, Olave, and Rashi Rice and Ayomaner. So I'm always a fan of trading somebody, and Anthony has, of trading the guy you just picked off the waiver wire. So if you need to move somebody, trade Ayomaner right over to them. So you're like, hey, here's a guy.
It's free.
He's yeah, exactly. It didn't cost you anything but a waiver wire pick. And he's had a touchdown in the last 2 games here. He's looking to be a solid, basically wide receiver 2 going the rest of the way. And maybe you could get a piece for him. If you're trying to get CD, you might have to add a little bit something to that. Maybe even throw Harvey in there, and that'll seal the deal. Because we were just talking to Harvey about the other guy. You're not going to see Harvey really take too much of a role there unless there's a lot of injuries ahead of him or something happens where he has to be the next man up. But right now, I think he's going to be later half of the season. So if you want to get CD, because CD is going to be down a couple of weeks, so you have to be able to withstand that, right? But with Nico and Pearsall doing really well, Olave is doing good. Rashi Rice will come back in 2 weeks. You're going to have a stacked wide receiver room right there, so you could just get rid of Ayomaner anyways. When are you going to start him for a bye week? You could just pick up another guy off the waiver wire to do that. That's my thoughts on it. What do you think? Something similar to that?
Yeah, personally, like when I looked at this and I kind of looked at who you have and who your running backs are, I wouldn't necessarily CD Lamb isn't the guy that I would go for, because Nico is, a phenomenal, wide receiver shout every week. Obviously he's going to have his ups and downs. Like most of the top 10 guys at each position are going through that right now. I would look for someone who's like a good complement behind Nico, less so like a CD Lamb who's like a big splash, because Gibbs, Irving, and Hampton, I mean, those are 3 guys that's a championship winning running back room. Like, it's an embarrassment of riches, and especially if RJ Harvey starts to take some of that load, you fire up those guys every single week without fail and multiple times on Sunday. If I was thinking, if you could maybe move like Pearsall or Olave, maybe like Pearsall and Harvey, for a nice like complimentary 2, that's probably the route that I would go. And it's, I love your receiver room too. It's just that, a lot of these guys right now are either injured or Rashi Rice isn't available. So I would be looking to kind of get rid of the
but think about it. In the future, if he does get CD, his team's going to be sick. He'll have CD, Nico, and Rashi Rice.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Starters, that'd be insane.
I think what I would do,
chip Ayomaner and Harvey, man. I'm telling you, just shoot that out there.
Yeah,
I know the CD is going to be gone, but once you get CD back and Rashi Rice fired up, you're going to be having the sickest wide receiver starting group, as well as very solid running back room.
Yep. I mean, if you are set on CD, I would say maybe Pearsall and Olave or something like that. Maybe I would, if you wanted to do a 1-for-1, I'd offer maybe just Hampton, and maybe do Hampton and Harvey and ask for one of his running backs in return if he has like a J.K. Dobbins, like a guy that at least can get you consistent points every week. But yeah, man, that would be crazy because if you reached a position where you're starting Gibbs and Irving, and then you also have Nico, Ceedee, and Rashee Rice, those are the only guys you need. You can take everyone else out of this equation right now, and that is a championship winning roster.
Yeah, start low and work your way up. See what happens.
Yep.
We got Smokey the Cat, man. What's up, man? What's up, man? My main league, I'm 0-3. Tough start, man. 12-team PPR. He's got Mahomes, Puka, London, Henderson, Benson, Pitts, Pickens, and on the bench you got Rashee Rice waiting to fire up, Charbs, B-Rob, RJ Harvey, and Hunt. Rashad White's thoughts. Ooh.
Ouch.
I could see why you're hurting. Mahomes hasn't been doing all that. Puka's solid. You don't have to worry about Puka. London's underperforming. Henderson, we just talked about a little bit ago. Trey Benson's having a tough matchup that he's about to face. You got Charbs. B-Rob's just like, he's a handcuff at this point till CMC goes down. RJ Harvey, we've been mentioning it, and Rashad White really hasn't been done much. Hunt is actually have some value, almost like it's Kareem Hunt's like doing something. I don't know. Ooh,
man,
I would be definitely throwing out some trades. You might want to. I moved on London. I was telling him I moved on London earlier today just to get a better tight end. I had the room in the wide receiver room so that I could just leave him behind for better days, and you would have Rashee Rice later on that you already have on your bench to replace him, so you could feel comfortable doing that. Pitts, I mean, he's doing okay. Like he's, some people even consider this is finally his breakout year. I wasn't falling for it again. I need to keep seeing it. I'm not going to touch that guy with the 10-foot pole from now on. Period.
We had a joke in a couple of my leagues with me and my friends, and instead of doing a league punishment for last place, it was the person that drafts Kyle Pitts has to like enlist in the Marine Corps. Like if you take Kyle Pitts,
oh wow,
like not actually, but it's like
I get you.
You got to do like the PT test and stuff like that because you can't be drafting Kyle Pitts in 2025. You just can't.
Yeah. But I do like Pickens there that you have. Like I said, you could probably withstand moving on London or somebody like that, just to improve your room. Hell, you might even want to move on Rashee Rice just to like help you out in some way or another. And I think it could be the running back room where you're going to be needing the most help. I know that Trey Benson is a good option for you to kind of get, but not this week. And hopefully he does pan out. Henderson being on, running back by committee over there. He's never going to see full touches, I don't think, this year. Sharps is going to be tough, man.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make some moves, Smoking the Cat. Who do you got out there? What's out there? We got Drew Lauro coming up. Should I trade Xavier Legette for Bijan? I feel like it could do better.
Honestly, man, I think I'm keeping Legette. I think I'm keeping. Yeah,
he's not even moving on. Trying to get Bijan. Wow.
No, he's playing. Drew's
I'm playing. I know. I'm playing. Jordan Mason or Cam Scatterboo rest of the season full PPR.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go Jordan Mason. Only because Tyrone Tracy will come back and eat into Cam Scatterboo. Cam Scatterboo is not necessarily going to be the number one over there for the team rest of the season. But the next couple of games he will be, at least 3 to 4 games. Jordan Mason has full reins over there in Minnesota now. He's the guy.
I would probably say I would go with Jordan Mason as well. Like if I think thankfully, like you kind of have the chance to just wait on it at the moment. Because if we're talking exactly for the rest of the season, make the prediction right now. That's a really tough question. But with Jordan Mason, at least that he's getting all of the goal line work. He's getting all of the passing work. The offense is looking a little better. And there's still that huge question mark of Jackson Dart right now. Is Jackson Dart going to be more apt to throw checkdowns? Is, when Tyrone Tracy comes back, are they going to take Cam Scatterboo out of that third down, passing role and insert Tracy back in? I think there's a couple more question marks around Scatterboo especially with the fact that I just don't think that team is as good as the Vikings. I would say until further notice on both of the Tyrone Tracy and the Aaron Jones injuries, I think it's got to be Jordan Mason.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Jordan Mason. Easy. Mr. Magic coming in. Guys, help. What do I do with Chase Brown? I'm in the same boat you are, Mr. Magic. I have a Chase Brown, and I'm 1-2 with that team because of Chase Brown. I believe it, had he scored what he should have scored, I would have won 2 of those games easily just by a couple points. I didn't lose by that much, and that's the problem because I know he's the one that lost it for me. Am I firing him up again? I'm not. I put him on the bench and just kind of waiting. I'm waiting to see him holding. I'm in a holding pattern with him. I think he has the potential and can do it. I just think that the team there just needs to kind of get behind the backup. I can't keep forgetting his name.
Yeah, Browning.
Yeah, Browning. I just can't think of Browning's name for whatever reason. But once they get kind of gelling with them in a week or so, 2 weeks, whatever it takes, Chase will be better. The rest of the team will be at least better. At least we'll know what we're going to get out of that team. It's not going to be terrible. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the worst thing in the world, but I'm benching till further notice. Uno gas. Yo, what's up, Uno gas? And he's like, hello, Drew. I was thinking of trading him for just to see if it works. Was about to shoot Harvey and okay, perfect. And Hurts and Brown. And for like Jacobs, find a QB needing team. There you go. That's
Is that for what trade was that? That
was for Jesse Hernandez that was up here with this whole trying to acquire CD Lamb situation. So
yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that. AJ Brown, there's better days ahead. And I also think with Chase Brown as well, there's better days ahead. He's definitely a hold. You can't sell him. I would be looking to buy him if I was a team that had 2 solid running backs. It's just, they're gonna go through their growing pains with Jake Browning. We've seen before that this Bengals offense can run with Jake Browning. And that players can be fantasy viable. I think the good thing, though, is that Chase Brown's still getting all the snaps. Last week he had 4 catches on 5 targets. It is tough when you're getting blown out by 40 points. That was a horrendous matchup. But I do think they'll start to gel with him. That offense will be a little more successful. And you do have a bona fide goal line running back. I look at him the same way as if Tyrone Tracy had no Cam Scatteraboo behind him and it was just his offense. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. He's getting the receiving work. It's not like they're giving his touches to anyone else. You gotta wait for the team to warm up a little bit. And I think they will. The Bengals love to be horrible the first 4 weeks of the season and then randomly look completely different after their bye week or something like that. But I'd hold him.
And here, Mr. Magic came back with what I do with the Chase Brown. He had a follow-up. Should I package him with Hurts to grab a high-end running back wide receiver? Can I grab Goff and Fields off waivers right now? I would go get Goff. Fields has got a concussion, so I don't know if I could grab him. But Goff's got good numbers. And should you package him? I would package him. If you feel like you got to move and you have the running back room to replace him right now, shoot him. You know what I mean? Like while he still holds some value, again, things could improve and he could be better later on, or he could just be a dud for the rest of the season.
James, sorry, I just wanted to add in too that if you can go and get, say, just to throw a name out there, Bucky Irving, right? I think a lot of people like to look at Bucky as he's not in that S tier and he's kind of at the end of that A tier. Yeah. So he's one of the more acquirable running backs, even like a Breece Hall too. If I could package Chase Brown and Jalen Hurts for, a Bucky Irving, I kind of look at it like this. On one end, you've got Team A who has Jalen Hurts and Chase Brown, and then there's Team B that has Jared Goff and Bucky Irving. Which position would you rather be in? I think I would take the Team B side with Jared Goff and Bucky Irving. It's just because Jalen Hurts too, they're not throwing the ball as efficiently. They don't seem like they care about throwing the ball. I think they're they're not that explosive high yardage offense, at least so far that they have been. I think it's, they're winning games by having time of possession, by running the ball, by, using their defense to hold teams to, less than 20 points a game. And I think Jalen Hurts, it's going to affect him. I don't see Jalen as being like finishing as like a top 3, top 4 fantasy quarterback this year.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it, and they haven't needed to. They don't.
Yep.
That's why AJ Brown's hurting, because that's one good game. And finally, you could almost sell high on that guy. It's like they're going to continue to run the ball behind Saquon. It's safest bet. The dude's a beast, and why wouldn't you? And
there's always one team each season that you're like, you guys have all this talent. Why aren't you using it? They're 3-0. Like,
they don't need to.
They're in the business. They're in the business winning games.
From KC was like, you guys didn't even get 100 yards. It's like, we won the game, bro.
We won the game, and they're undefeated right now, and they're going to continue to do this every week until
the formula is working, and there's no reason to change it.
That's what sucks about the modern NFL and the NFL in general when it comes to fantasy is sometimes the teams with the best players just want to win the games. That's it. They don't care about doing it.
Doesn't have to be pretty. You win the Super Bowl, you don't care if you score 100 points or 3 points, as long as you win the win.
Yep.
That's it. Win, baby. So you had James Bond here. What's the best running back targets for Chase Brown? As far as I'm looking at, he's right around Javonte Williams area, Chuba Hubbard, Travis Etienne, Trey Benson. That's kind of the area. I think you could even go down to like a Jalen Warren or Alvin Kamara at this point, just to get. If you feel like you don't want him on your roster anymore, that's who I'd be targeting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's tough. Pretty much all of those guys that you listed are people that I would take over him. I'm looking at my own rankings right now that I have, and I've got Chase Brown down at the RB 29, one spot ahead of Travion, one spot behind David Montgomery. I would trade him for Kenneth Walker. I would trade him for J.K. Dobbins. I would trade him for Genty, for Scattaboo, for Jalen Warren. All of those guys. You want guys that are going to trend upward. And for Chase Brown, it's for Jalen Warren, Chase Brown rest of the season. I like Jalen Warren, and it's just because you're essentially getting the same player, but you
without
don't
the risk.
Without the uncertainty. Yeah. Chase Brown will get better. I don't think right now is when you should trade him unless you're in a dire need of a win. But I think if you can go out and get a guy like a Dobbins or a Genty who are going to trend up. JK, obviously he's got Harvey on his tail, but he's almost a guaranteed touchdown a week. And I'm telling you, like, it is so much better when you watch J.K. Dobbins score a touchdown on the first drive of the game and you're like, all right, I can calm down now, versus having to sweat out a 8-point Chase Brown performance, just hoping they give him the ball, in the flat or something like that. It's I'm willing to pay a little more for that peace of mind.
There you go. How Lee here said, should I trade my Brees, Judkins, and Tyreek for Bucky? I think you're giving up way too much. Already seen that too many names. My other running backs are Hampton and Etienne. My wide receivers are Neighbors, Nico, and Ibuka, Keenan, and Rice. I don't think you need it.
League?
He's full PPR. He doesn't mention how many.
That's a really
how
good
many teams is it in the? I think it's like at least a 10 team, maybe an 8 team league, because I don't see how you get all these guys on one team unless you have not many players involved.
Right.
But
I think I'd go Ibuka straight up. Ibuka for Bucky. You've got such a good wide receiver core already. In considering that after Neighbors, Nico, Ibuka, Keenan, and Rice, you still have Tyreek is insanity. I wouldn't package all of those guys. I do think Ibuka for Bucky, you're set.
I wouldn't move on Ibuka. I would package Brees and Tyreek for Bucky. You don't need to add Junkins.
That's a good one too.
You don't have to add Junkins in there. That's way too many guys for one guy. Bucky's not that guy. I mean, I like Bucky, but he's not that guy. He need to send 3 dudes. I think that you're selling high at Tyreek with what's going on with Miami, and Breece Hall's just, who do we got? Braylon Allen coming up behind him on the Seals. Maybe you're selling high, but that's who I would do. I would keep Junkins. He could be something. But if he's not,
wouldn't even hate staying pat. I really wouldn't hate not even doing that trade, because if I've got a running back room of Hampton, Breece, Etienne, and Judkins, and my wide receiver room is Neighbors, Nico, Igbuka, Tyreek, Keenan, and Rice, I'm happy.
Yeah, right. You're set, right?
So you're stacked already.
Even at full PPR. So there you go. Bailey Shalama traded Adams for Derrick Henry and for Rashee Rice for a 2026 first. Thoughts? So this is a dynasty league here. So he's trading Adams and Derrick Henry for Rashee Rice and a 2026 first.
I mean, that's a steal. That's a steal. You're getting off of, I'm assuming that's Devontae Adams. You're getting off of Devontae Adams on his 3rd team now. 4th
agent Devontae Adams, just call him that.
Yeah, right. Derrick Henry's still great. He's still great. I think I think a lot of people look at his age and they think his dynasty outlook sucks. I tend to look 3 or 4 years ahead. And unless he suffers a major injury, this is one of the most durable guys in the league. He doesn't normally have injury issues. He should be good for a while, but he is a running back and he is getting older. You just got one of the hottest young receivers that you could ask for in Dynasty, and you get a 1st-round pick to, stack on top of that, which, could, be a very good running back or receiver. So you're given a very clear upgrade at wide receiver for the next 3 to 4 years, and you're given, the chance to kind of right the ship when it comes to that missing running back spot.
Yeah, you could just pick up the next high running back that comes out in the 2026 draft. I like it. I think that's a good trade. I think it's a fair trade. You should be doing well in the future here, especially if you're just maybe rebuilding this year and things like that. So why not? Yep. It says, what do you guys think of Dart from the Giants? So Dart here from the Giants is on our thumbnail here. I'm not sure how I feel about him. There you are. You disappeared for a second.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts on Jackson Dart? I gotta look this guy up. Quite honestly, I only have stats on this guy.
He's a 1st-rounder from Ole Miss. I think you're gonna have to be patient. You're gonna have to be really patient. Dart wasn't known as the best processor, doesn't have the biggest arm. I do think that he's got a great offensive play caller or play designer, at least in Brian Daboll behind him. But we're talking, a team in which their GM and their head coach might get fired. A lot of their weapons outside of Malik Neighbors aren't really anything that, you're going to write home about. I just think it's going to be baby steps with him at the beginning. Fantasy wise, I don't necessarily think he'll be too relevant. I would say if you're in a deeper league, a deep super flex league, then maybe he's worth picking up. But he certainly isn't going to hit that ceiling that Russell Wilson did of, randomly going out and throwing for 350 yards. I think it's going to be one of those, rookie seasons where there's going to be a lot of bad, but it won't necessarily be because of him. It'll be, a lot of it on his O-line, his teammates. I would say maybe, I think as a fantasy wise, the Jackson Dart starting is a net negative for the next few weeks. But maybe the Giants as a team find some spark. I think he'll be good in the long run. I think he's a good prospect. I just don't think fantasy wise right now he'll keep them relevant.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not, some people are saying it's great news from Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Cam Scatterbo. I'm not sure if it's so great. Yeah. But then again, maybe this guy comes out there, checks it, looks decent, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was just chucking it. He was doing what he did best. Throw the long ball. He didn't care. He's like, hey, I'm just here for the money or whatever. What's going on? He's not gonna, the team's just in rebuilding still. So I think they're gonna test him out, see what they got. Kick the tires around a little bit. Maybe go right back to Russell Wilson. I'm not buying in all the way till I actually see it. And if I miss out on this year, that's fine. I'm good with trying to draft him again next year.
That's my exact thought with Travis Hunter. I know a lot of people right now. Travis Hunter's been a big name in fantasy in terms of what people should do with him. And I remember one of my close friends asked me before our draft, like, hey, what do you think of him? And I just remember telling him, like, I want him to be someone else's problem. Like, I am totally fine if Jackson Dart becomes really, really good. If Travis Hunter becomes really, really good, that's awesome. I don't want to be the person that has to deal with that week to week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys are talking amongst themselves. Yeah, Jay Hang. Actually, I want to read before we get to that. How low did say 10-man league. So
wow.
That's why we were looking at that stacked team. Remember, and you have a really nice team. Thanks. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, you're welcome, bro. Hope you like and subscribe to the channel here. Please do give us the likes. We got got a couple guys here answering all you guys' questions that we can. So please bear with us. We're already over an hour easy here now. An hour 16. So let's see how much more do we got. We got too much more to go. So we'll try to get to everybody as fast as we can. Kind of speed it up here. BTJ for Brees Hall. I
like the Brees side.
Yeah.
Like I just
hasn't been there this year.
It's and that's the worst part. It's mental for him. There's so much that you can tell from when Trevor throws him the ball that I don't know if he trusts him. And that's horrifying news for anyone that owns Brian Thomas.
Is it the wrist injury? I mean, is it like he's like short arming these catches? It's like
I think he got what was it, week 1 or was it preseason? He got hit pretty well in one of those starting games. Trevor threw a ball across the middle, didn't really put it in a great
laid
spot.
Him out.
Yeah. And ever since then, he genuinely has been scared to catch these throws. I don't think that he trusts Trevor to protect him. And I think that is a big, big mental issue that does not course correct itself in a couple of weeks. If you can get Brees Hall for BTJ, oh my goodness, you just won the lottery.
So he just went and he said, I traded Turpin and Johnston for JJ. Is that good?
This guy also
Turpin and Quinton Johnson.
We just got 2 people that just won the lottery. That's crazy. Whoever I'm not gonna lie, Frank. Like, I'm not someone who vetoes and calls for vetoes ever unless it's like truly collusion.
Yeah.
That might be one that if I made that trade in my leagues, it's getting vetoed 100%.
Yeah, somebody would be looking at that, be like Kevontae Turpin and Justin.
Kevontae Turpin's not even startable. Unless you're in like a punt return yardage league.
There's something going on with that. Somebody's got to be looking at that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you did win the lottery, like you said. Mike said, should I trade Jamar Chase for Bucky full PPR? I'd do it.
Yeah, I would.
Just move on. Just like get her done. I mean, we're so inclined at this point. SWA, should I trade London and Javonte for a wide receiver upgrade this week since I got deep running back room, or should I keep holding out, hope London will start playing well? And of SBJ, target. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. If so, who should I target? Oh, thank you for tuning. I was like, what was that? I was like, did I miss it? So let's go back to the beginning. Should I trade London and Javonte for a wide receiver upgrade this week since I got deep running back room, or should I keep holding out, hope London? I traded London already. And he should be better later on. And I think that you could move on both of them to improve your wide receiver room if you're already deep in running back. So why not? Like, you want to keep improving your team as you can throughout the season, because at the end of the, check your bye weeks right now. Check who the matchups are when you get to the playoffs, who your team's going to be facing. So that way you go after the right people that help you in the playoff situations. So if that helps you to make the trade of who you're going to go after, that's who you should be looking at. Start planning way down the line now, because if you got a good running back room, deep running back room right now, that's hard to find. And if you're just improving your wide receivers right now with some guys like London and Devontae that you can, I mean, Devontae's doing good, but I mean, if you got a deep running back room, which tells me you got probably better, then you should be able to get something pretty decent for that guy that's going to help you much further down the line, especially in the playoff scenario. So that's what I'd be looking at. Any other? No?
Yeah,
we're good.
I think London. I think London's a guy that you could hold if you want to. I think that there are better days ahead for London. He is struggling, but he's getting the targets. They just got to get their offense sorted out. That Vikings matchup, Brian Flores. There is no such thing as throwing a deep ball over Brian Flores. His safeties do not give those up. So I think. It has been a little spooky for Drake London so far. I think if you have a deep running back room, if you're in like a 10 team, 12 team, 14 team, that's the type of thing where you can now charge extra. You can charge interest on, those running backs because you don't have to trade them. And for a lot of most teams in fantasy right now, and I think Frank could attest to this too, one running back injury and your team might be losing every week. Like running backs right now, they're in a 10-team league. There's less than 20. Like not everyone gets two good ones. And so
12-team leagues, 14-team leagues are even more sparse.
Yep. If you got a
too hard to get.
You can unless like your wide receiver core needs work and is like, you're starting guys that, otherwise you shouldn't be. With a better room, then I would just keep those running backs, or sell them to the highest bidder, start a bidding war. Someone is going to be willing to overpay, because if it's the law of averages. If you have the really, really good running back room, chances are there's a guy with a really, really bad running back room.
Throw them on the trade block, see what you get, right?
Yep. Time to go fishing.
Yeah. Here we go. We got two more go, and we're gonna get out of here because they're already 122. I mean, it's amazing for the first time having Dylan on the show. Thank you for coming on here. But we got to close it out here. Super CNB challengers here. Should I trade away Chase Brown, Olave, and Dobbins for Kamara and James Cook? PPR. Chase Brown, Olave, and Dobbins for Kamara and James Cook. I would do it just for James Cook almost. I tell you what. Smash the accept button or send the trade. Do it. It's legit.
James Cook. You go get James Cook.
Yeah, exactly. And Kamara's not a bad fill-in since you're going to be losing Dobbins and Brown. You'll end up with James Cook and Kamara. Olave is just kind of like a toss-in at this point.
I mean, Olave, he's bad offense, injured. Like,
send it. Christopher Choi, would you sell high on Benson? Yeah, I mean, if he hasn't even played yet, if you could get a very decent piece for him, why not?
If you can get
it all depends. It all depends on what you have on your team. I mean, I see these kind of questions. I like to see what your team is, and your 10 team, 12 team, what you're doing. We need some more information on your thing, but if you could get a much better running back or a much better wide receiver because somebody's really hurting, like we were just talking about, running backs are scarce this year. So Trey Benson just got the shot. So even before it depends on your situation. But there's going to be guys out there taking a shot on Trey Benson, and they're going to be biting at the chomp to get him. Last one here for Troy Peters. What's up, bro? I remember Troy. Bro, I just need to get rid of DeAndre Swift, but I don't know who to trade him for.
You hold him.
That's going to be a tough one.
I know it's frustrating, having a running back like that. I think I've got a similar issue right now with Ramondre. I traded for Ramondre. At least he was in a package for Tucker Kraft. But, with those guys, you really don't know what to do with them. All you can really do is hold. The running back rooms this year are just so scarce. There's not enough to go around. And if you have one, you're good. I think you could trade him for a receiver that's way better than he is. it wouldn't shock me if you could get Xavier Worthy for DeAndre Swift. But personally, I think holding him is your best course of action, because that Bears offense, Caleb just had 4 touchdowns. Like, if any of those went on the ground, that's, DeAndre Swift saves his week. But I'd say hold on.
So, hold him. So on that note, we're just going to close it down. We didn't even get to our other notes. We put on about an hour's worth of work on some other stuff that we had to go on.
Goodness gracious.
But like I said, sometimes it's just hot in the chat, and we want to answer your guys' questions here. So I'm glad that everybody joined us here tonight. I'm not even going to bother with the Trophy Smack. Reed, come check them out, Trophy Smack. Go get some things. I want to shout out to Kendall VanDerBilt and the Fantasy Football Tavern, Phil Ruskin and the Extra Point. Their links in the description. Follow them as well. And on that note, keep like and subscribe. We appreciate the follows, and follow us. We'll be back Monday. Hopefully Dylan comes back Monday. Let's check it out. We'll check. We'll do the Mondays Monday night overreaction and waiver wire show. And,
I love overreacting. That's my favorite thing to do.
So we're going to be definitely getting some more looks and touches for you guys. So from everybody here at Get Right Fantasy Network, we appreciate you guys. Peace out.
Wanted to write fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go